Right, so we built this really cool game in the last lesson where you can, collect enemies. If you get hit, you slow down. Let's go ahead and start on our next project. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click on this folder and I'm going to call this um, monster game. And I'm just going to grab all these scenes, the art, and I'm going to drop it inside of here. Now, what we're going to do in this next one is I used to work for a company that made visual acuity games where like it was used to treat things like strabismus, stuff like this. And we created a fun game that was like a theme park game. So I'm going to go ahead and just name this theme park. And what we'll do in this one is it's going to be like a tossing game where you're throwing it at a target. So I'm just going to go ahead and do file and then new scene. And it's going to be basic URP because this is going to be a 3D one. And I'm going to do file and then we'll uncheck 2D here. File, save as, and what we're going to do inside of the assets folder is go into theme park and just name this, target shoot. And the reason why it's just target shoot is because this is one element of the game. So if you want to build out more theme park stuff, you could have a target shoot game inside of here and a few others, like you can have it where if it's VR, you can slam the hammer. So I'm just going to check in those changes so I have that locked in and I could work on this later. And here's our target shoot level. And this is going to be similar to a lot of the games that we've made before, like the taxi game or whatever, where you're supposed to do something under a time limit. I feel these are like great ways to start off doing a game. So anyway, let's go ahead and install Package Manager. And what I'm going to be looking for is Unity Registry, and I'm going to look for Pro Builder. So just scrolling down to the P's, which is here. And I'm just going to hit install and let that install all the way through. Right, now we have that installed, and it's interesting because Pro Builder now doesn't have a pop-out window. It just has this editors thing where you can create a poly shape, or if you click here, you can create the different shapes by left-clicking and holding down. So for instance, say we want to create a cube, I can click and hold Shift here, or I can escape, hit delete, and I can just click on this. So I kind of like this. It's going to be completely new to me too, so let's hold Control Alt. I think one of them just makes it for you. So, and something to pay attention to if you've never used Pro Builder before is you can go in here and essentially edit the shape. And what this will do, let me hit escape here. What's happening? To W, and then we'll select this. And what this will allow us to do is you can edit the shape, and I can select the face mode for here. And as I move this, you might be wondering, well, where's 1 meter? Well, 1 meter is this little dash here. This equates to 1 meter, and this equates to 1 meter too. Like this, sorry, this little dash here is 1 meter down here. And so what you have is a way to essentially measure these objects so that they fit for real space. So say you're doing a VR game and you need it to be set in real world units, you can do that using these cubes. So it's a really nice feature. Let me go ahead and hit W here. So another thing is if you click on, here's Edit Pro Builder Shape, check that on and off, and now I could hit W and I could just kind of move this around. Let's uncheck, let's see, uncheck this. This is our Edit tool. And when you click on Edit, you can see up top, you get ways to edit the edge mode, a vertex, things like that. And then object mode, which would be just checking off this. So I like this. I like this new Unity 6. I like the way it's viewed. So let's go ahead and reset this. This is going to represent our player. I'm going to go ahead and F to focus on this. And actually, what I'd like to do is I'm just going to select this face on the bottom here. And let's do Tools, Pro Builder. Then under Geometry here, you want to go to Set Pivot to Selection. And that'll set the pivot to the bottom here. So now when I uncheck Edit and I go to pivot point, it goes to the bottom here. And now when I reset this, you can see it snaps to the top of that grid. Let's also go to Window and go to Asset Store. And inside this Asset Store, I want to look for skyboxes. And I'm really going to be a cheapskate and just look for a free one. I think this one is fine. And I'm going to make sure that I'm signed in. Now that I'm signed in, I'm going to hit open in Unity and just hit open in Unity Editor here. And then Fantasy Skybox is free. Just going to hit download. Let that download to my project. Once it's downloaded, you'll get this import. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit this import button here. And then I'm just gonna grab all this stuff. I don't care about project bloat. Actually, that might be a lie. I don't know if I need these scenes. This actually looks nice. They might have some other cool stuff. You know what? We'll just import it all. Maybe we could borrow from those scenes. All right, let's close this out. All right, so what I did is I had a little bit of a crash. So all I did is I made a folder called games and I dragged monster game and theme park game inside of here. Now, something else we have to do is our game is set to 2D. Do you see how it looks flat? If I select my main camera, it's set to perspective or, which is actually what we want. But when we go down here, it says render or render 2D. We want to keep this, but what we really want is now we're going to be working in a 3D game. So we want to be able to switch between 2D and 3D. So inside my theme park game here, I'm just going to create a folder in here and just call it renderer. And then inside of this, I'm going to right click and I'm just going to create a new rendering. And then let's see, where is URP? So here's our URP asset with 2D renderer. We want to do a URP asset with universal renderer. This is the 3D one. Now, we could name this Tower Defense, or I'm sorry, not Tower Defense. That's for the other class. But we could name this Target Shoot, so TS, and then Render Pipeline. And so that way we remember what this is. I'll do the same thing for this guy. And there's a little bit of a difference between these two. Do you see how this says renderer and then this says asset? This is kind of your asset settings for lighting and stuff and how it affects globally. And this is just our renderer, which will control sort of the way that it functions for rendering the final scene. This stuff I get into a lot more detail in another class. For now, just understand that you need to have a new renderer for each project type. So I'm going to go here to edit project settings and I'm going to click on graphics. And you can see right off the bat, we have universal render pipeline. This is what's feeding in these different render types. So like if you want to do a cartoony render type, you'd create a different one for each one of these. So I'm going to click on that and I'll select that and you can see it's set to 2D. Now if I drag that one that I had made earlier into here, you can now see that it created a 3D version of that environment because this is the 2D version that we had before. Now, if I go to the way that this box showed up is in between the restart. I went to Windows, rendering and lighting, and all I did is I went to the environment tab, and here you can actually switch between those different lights, different setting that we had created earlier. I'm just going to pick something bright and fun, maybe this guy, because when I look at my environment, and let me go ahead and click on that cube. When I look at my environment for my shooting game, I want it to be something fun like this. And for my main camera here, I'm just going to make maybe -5 here, get a little bit closer. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S to save this project. And I think I made a display for this visual scripting, but let's do 2x3. And I'm going to dock this. I also really want to get my version control in here. And then I'm going to check in those changes so I have it saved. All right, so let's go ahead and select this cube and trying to think of the units that I want to make this, but let's go ahead and hit, let's see. Yeah, let's just edit this. Let's go to face mode and I'm going to go and hit R and scale this up to a pretty good size, something like this. And then we'll have to take a look at the physics for the scale later, but I'm just going to try to make it as, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meters. Let's try to make this by 6 meters. Maybe we'll make it, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll make it 8 meters wide. And then what I want to do is I want to flip these normals so that we're looking inside the cube and these become our ground and our walls. So go to Tools, Pro Builder, Geometry, and then we want to do flip face normals. And then what I want to do is kind of look on the inside of this. And what I'm looking at is, let's make sure we're in edit mode, is I want the Z-axis to be facing, I want us to be looking at it from the Z-axis this way. And so what I'm going to do is, or Z-axis pointing out that way. And I'm just going to go in here and delete this. Oops. See, where's my main camera? Yeah, my main camera is here. So what I want to do is go inside of here, and then I'm just going to delete this front wall. Keep forgetting that you hit backspace and not delete to select those faces and delete it. All right, so now we have our camera here, and then we have some walls. And what I'm going to do for the floor is I'm just going to, again, select this, hit edit, select the floor. And again, we're just prototyping right now. We're doing more game design than art. If you are interested in doing more art, let me know. We can get you stuff. But vertex colors, here's our vertex color window. And I wonder if there should be a vertex color editor. There we go. So for the floor, I'm just going to make it green, bloop, like that. And then for these walls, we'll just make them brown, because later we can go in here and sort of make a representational fence, something like that. And then I'm just going to hit this apply button. And then what I'd like to do is maybe select these verts at the top and maybe make this not so tall. So something like this. Let's close this out. And this sort of represents our environment, again, until we model our own stuff. Maybe we'll make that a little bit lower, but let's see how it all acts out. And I'll probably make another, because I love art. It's kind of my passion. And we'll probably make another video where we just make the art for this. All right, we're going to use a ProBuilder capsule, but what I want to do is let's do 3D object capsule from here, just so I can look at the scale of everything. So you can see here, actually, maybe we could ProBuilderize this, now that I think about it. What I mean by ProBuilderize it is you can go into ProBuilder here, and I know there's an option. Let's see, geometry. Let's see. I'll have to look for it, unless it's right up here. Yeah, object Builder eyes. And what this does, this converts it into a geometry that we can edit. Now for this camera, I'm going to bring it out just a little bit here. And actually, I think the environment should be much bigger. So let me scale this up now that I look at the size of this capsule, because this is supposed to be our player. And then let's uncheck this, and let's move our player back a little bit, as well as our camera. That makes a little bit better sense for the target. I think that's good for project setup. What we'll do in the next video is we'll take a look at moving this player around.